This is strength work that actually calms pain. Now, endurance athletes are notorious for going through and continuing to do our workouts and push through pain. That's not necessarily what we want to do. We want to make sure that we can ease that pain as quickly as possible so that we can continue to get back to our training plan without pain. So the quicker that you can get this pain under control, the better off we're going to be. And one way that we can go about that by continuing some of our strength training is by doing isometric contractions. Now, we talked about in a couple of days ago, we talked about eccentric control and eccentric stability to help with overall resiliency, but we're going to use isometric muscle contractions to help with pain. Now, as far as that goes, we talked about concentric, which is that shortening of the muscle, that squeezing of the muscle, and eccentric was elongation of our muscle, if we're talking specifically about our bicep here. But today we're going to talk about isometric, and iso is isolation, so we're going to do that in the same range of motion. So basically it's a contraction without movement of that muscle that we're trying to target. So for example, if I'm dealing with some hip pain or if I'm dealing with some knee pain, what we're going to do to help with that pain is create a contraction within a specific range. Now this range could be within the painful arc of motion. So if we're dealing with a pain in a specific portion of that joint's motion, or we can do it outside of that arc of motion if the pain is that severe. So what I want to do is, for example, if we're dealing with pain on the outside of our hip, and we're going to use this example as the table as like a wall, we're going to take our foot and we're going to stabilize on one foot for a bit. We can use that table, we can use the wall as a support surface for balance if we need it. And from here, what we can do is we're going to push directly into that wall, into that table. We're going to create that muscle contraction on the outside of the hip. And again, right now, this may not be my painful arc. It may be my painful arc where I'm dealing with pain. We want to hold that contraction for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. We want to take a break and we want to let off some of that pressure. And then we want to go back into that pressure and give some input into that wall, into that tissue to help provide sense to our brain through our nervous system that this is okay of a muscle contraction. It will help calm down pain receptors. It will allow for healthy signals to go back to that muscle to alleviate any stiffness, achiness, and also allow for some of the muscle, if it's tight, to relax and improve our overall ability to move without pain. Now, one caveat I didn't want to say is that this type of contraction is only going to work for 5 to 10 degrees of that motion. So if I'm doing it down here with my knees specifically directed as if I'm standing straight, it's only going to work 5 to 10 degrees in either direction. So if we need to do it through multiple ranges, we need to move that leg in multiple different directions and contract in that same way to make sure that we're getting the best benefits, whether that's through that painful arc that we talked about or just coming up to it right before that pain, so that each time we do it through that increased measure of range, we can continue to get rid of that pain and get it to go away more efficiently. If you have any questions about this, feel free to put that down in the comments. I'd love to help answer. It is a bit nuanced and there is a little bit more that could go into it, but I wanted to give you some short little tidbits of ways to think about how to go about dealing with your pain more efficiently. And if you do have any specific questions that you don't feel like comfortable commenting down here, direct message us. We'd be happy to set you up for success. Make sure you like and